anyway because it's just my habit. I'm joined now by Dr. John Combs, the ever elusive Dr. John Combs. Not really. I exaggerate all the time about like how much I've tried to get you on the show because it really the thing was I just didn't have your phone number and it couldn't get in touch with you. So I had to rely on other people and eventually get your phone number in order to get you on the show. But the first time I asked you, you said yes. The first time I actually asked you. Now, I'm going to apologize ahead of time because I'll probably say Coach Combs at some point because that's how I knew you for so long. And then
those were the good old days.
Then this doctorate came up and all this other stuff that you got. And but you were the Tipton County Superintendent of Schools for a long time. You were in Tipton County Schools for much longer than that. So just let's go back. You were my 10th grade English teacher. And so let's go back there. How long had you been teaching at that point? Not very long, I don't think.
Wait, were we going to talk about how you did in my English class? Was that how were we leading in that way? Or
let's not start there.
Oh, okay. I'm
sorry. We might get there in a moment.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, by the way, I speak on the show, everyone can tell how I did in English class. So
I think you were a little better than you give yourself credit for. Yeah, you were a real good writer.
It wasn't your English class I had trouble with. It was a different teacher later on.
Oh, okay.
Yours went pretty well, if I remember correctly.
No, yeah,
but yeah, that was one you had not been teaching very long when Brighton High School first started, had you?
Yep. No. When it opened in '96, they pulled teachers from Covington High and Munford High to start Brighton High. So I started in '93 at Munford High School. Then they opened Brighton High in '96. They pulled teachers from both places. So I don't have been teaching for 3 years maybe, and then they pulled us and moved us over to Brighton High.
And so I don't know how long you were there before you ended up becoming how long you were a teacher there before you ended up becoming a principal. You did some baseball coaching, I know, but just kind of walk me through your career all the way up to superintendent.
Oh goodness! So I was a high school English teacher at Munford High starting off, and I also helped with baseball and football there at Munford High, and I was the wrestling coach at Munford High School. And then I went to Brighton High, and I was the English teacher. I was a coach, baseball coach for a while, and then I was a counselor there for a little bit. And then eventually went to Brighton Middle, and I was the principal there for about 10 years up on the hill when Mr. Tony Jones, everybody loved Mr. Tony, big old dude.
Yeah.
He left, went to, I think, Three Oaks or something, and I took his place there, and then eventually went to the central office, and I ran this grant at the central office called the TIF grant. It was some grant at the time where they're distributing money to teachers based on performance. It was frankly a garbage grant because it wasn't fair. You kind of I was the guy everybody had to talk to who didn't get, and it really wasn't a fair grant, but whatever. And then I was assistant superintendent under Buddy Bibb for quite a while, 6-7 years, I think. Then I was superintendent for 8, so 33 years total.
And so I know you're well thought of in the community from the time at the middle school to all the way to the time at the board. And I mean, I think we say that at the board. That might be an inside term, but your time working as an assistant superintendent and a superintendent.
Thank you.
I know everybody loves you, and they loved all your social media updates and things that you did and sort of the energy that you brought to the job. What was your philosophy going in as a superintendent? What were the things you wanted to do? And I love Buddy Bibb.
Buddy's a great guy.
Absolutely. But what was your philosophy going in? What were maybe some of the things that you wanted to see change when you came in there?
Great question, and I appreciate that question. And I want the audience to know that we didn't load that. That's a good question. Thank you.
I've done this a couple times.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah. So I want it to be about kids. I mean, that's always been my focus. That's the whole reason I got the job in the first place. I just love kids, right? And I think the focus should always be kids. We talked about, and I'm sure you've heard about it on this show. Everybody has about, TCAP scores and testing and all that garbage. And, people who've heard me talk before, even in board meetings that are recorded in live stream, go back and check me out. I'm not a big fan, right? I think it's hard to take a little snapshot of someone at one point in time and go, oh, yeah, that's this child. No,
right.
Not so much, right? Let's talk about more things. So my focus was more on what all can we do for kids. And that means we do a lot of capital projects, capital improvements to make our buildings and our facilities nicer and make kids proud to be where they are, right? That means we enhance our CTE programs. That means we try to do more offerings for them so that they can have more things to go to and be proud of where they are and want to be where they are. 'Cause the kids going to function better if they like being where they're going to be for
Absolutely. Yeah.
all that time, right?
Right.
So I think that was more my focus going into it is how can I make this more user friendly for children? Actually, some of the pushback, believe it or not, that social media stuff you mentioned, I occasionally did get some pushback from parents like, I think this video is a little insensitive for those of us who have to stay home, and I think this snow day is a little bit, and I'm like, I'm sorry, and of course, me well enough in the classroom, I'm a bit sarcastic, so I said, I really hate that, but guess what? It wasn't for you. I made the video for the kids. It wasn't for you. So I hate that your feelings are hurt, but I really don't hate that your feelings are hurt. I made
Right.
it for the kids.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So I think that kind of encapsulates the whole deal. That was my focus going in. I just want to make it better for kids. I still want that to happen.
You were there through a lot of construction.
Mhm.
I mean, you saw. Were you superintendent when Atoka got built, or was it right after?
It was no, I was that was before I was superintendent. I was still at Brighton Middle, I think, when that happened. Because when I was the principal at Brighton Middle, we still had fifth grade. And then when Austin P and then Atoka came along, they pulled fifth grade from our building to populate those new schools.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it was right before. So when I was superintendent, we did over $110 million worth of capital projects. That's
And of course, after all the years of doing all the tornado drills and everything, you
uh,
actually preside over a tornado tearing up two
oh,
schools.
man, you talk
Now,
about
the school
yeah,
wasn't in,
right.
which was fantastic.
Yep.
I mean, if it's going to happen, that's the best time. But you did see two of your schools get destroyed
Yeah, that was rough.
and
Yeah.
have to be rebuilt, and then and remonikered. And I think probably a good thing to now be called Covington because they're feeders to Covington High School.
Right. Right.
There is no Covington City school system anymore,
Right.
so renamed to Covington instead of Crestview. Although it hurts my heart a little bit because I went to Crestview. But
Right.
but what was that process like when you realize you got two schools now that are demolished by her? They aren't going to be occupiable at all by
Yeah.
a tornado.
Yeah. First you just kind of have to take a big breath and breathe, right? Because there is no book. You start looking, call around, hey, okay, what's some folks, and
Right.
really not many folks have been through that. So you just kind of glean all that information and then start moving forward. Try to get the kids back, try to get them somewhere. The state. It's right around testing time. We mentioned that earlier, and we even specifically asked, to not have them take the test. I mean, test was like what 2-3 weeks away, and we said, can we not? And the state said, no, you have to test. So we had to
Of course
spread
they
them
did.
out
Yeah.
in buildings that weren't familiar and have them test anyway.
That's how they get their
Uh,
money. So
I mean, just it was ridiculous. And but then so we had to put them somewhere in those temporary facilities that we had them in, and we had to have them in a facility by August. I mean, we even asked to do some kind of remote learning a little bit longer, to give us more time to get those facilities ready, and we were denied that by the state.
that's
So
crazy.
we had to have them in August when we had them in. So, but I mean, the fire marshal was incredible. I mean, the local, like the folks that work in Covington, the city of Covington and their people were incredible. Leslie Fisher, all those people, they were incredible. The fire marshal getting us in. I mean, it was unreal.
Now, let me say this. I
Yep.
think it's probably a reflection on the how good the test scores are in Tipton County
Mhm.
that the state refused to give any kind of extension or any kind of
Yeah.
because if you'd have been a poor performing school system or even just those two schools, if they'd have been poor performing, then the state would have said, take your time. Take your time. Don't worry about it. You don't have to test this year. But they knew that your tests were going to bring up the average, I think.
Well, and I think one of the things, like, they eventually gave us like a 2 week. They said, all right, hold on, we'll give you 2 weeks to regroup and figure out how you're going to do this. I mean, because we had to spread kids out. We had to send some kids home from the high school so we could use their classrooms to test. Same. It was crazy, but at the same time, whenever those scores eventually came back, they're like, well, we're not sure if we're going to use these or we're not. The biggest thing from the state was it was precedent. They didn't want to set a precedent. They didn't want to say, okay, here's the deal. Yes, you had this disaster. We're not, because now they've set a precedent. They're saying, okay, now we'll have to do this if there's another disaster across the.
Well, yeah, if
that was the
another
excuse
school
that I got from them.
collapses, then, I don't think that's a dangerous precedent.
I know, right? So next year, yeah, but that was their reasoning.
That's not going to be like you're not going to have to, like, next time a pipe breaks, somebody gets to delay the test. That's not going to,
Right.
you could say when the building is uninhabitable.
That's right. That's right.
But I don't understand that at all.
Right,
But
right.
that is state politics. So
It is. And then I want to say, I got to throw this in there. Our teachers and our kids and everybody, they work really, really hard to do well on state testing. And they do. I mean, our folks are great. They play the game. That stuff's tied into teachers' evaluations. It's tied into those letter grades that all the schools get that are set down from the state that are based on that one component that don't incorporate really all of what's needed
Right.
for, a school to function, what it means to be a child in Tipton County, all that. But
yeah, because
but
they
anyway,
should. I
they
mean,
work
it should.
hard.
Some of the factors should also. You shouldn't just look at a snapshot one test. I mean, you should also look at progression over the number of years. Even when you're looking at elementary school, you should look at the number of kids that went to that elementary school that eventually graduated high school,
Oh, yeah.
and things like that. So, the one component thing is
Oh,
crazy
yeah.
to me.
I mean, if I walked in that door, Chad, like one day, right, one day out of the year, and said, Chad, hey, guess what? Just popped in. You could have a head cold, right? Your tech couldn't be working right that day, and I'm like, hey, look, Chad, here's the deal. I'm going to base today is when I'm going to base your performance for the
Right.
whole year of how well a DJ you're today. Today's the day. I'm just the rest of the year. This is how well you're doing. I'm going to base it on today. That's it. I mean, all
Right.
the precipitating factors aside, today's the day. That's what it's like to be a kid taking a cat.
Yeah.
It's just not fair.
It's like a
not
TV
right.
screen test. It's like when you go screen test for a role.
Yeah,
It's all based on that
That's
one
right.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break right now. I'll be back with more. We'll get into some more fun stuff. John Combs on the other side, US 51 Country, 93.5 FM. Dr. John Combs. Back here, 7:54 right now. Dr. John Combs in here with us. And Dr. Combs, appreciate you coming in today. And I'm going to go ahead and warn you because it's 7:54 right now. I'm probably going to hold you for another segment.
Okay.
Because I don't know when I'll ever be able to get you on again. You may block my number after this. And so I'm going to take as much time as I can until you just get up and leave.
All right.
But I wanted to go back to those days at Brighton High School. And you were a volunteer firefighter with Brighton at the time.
I was.
And me and my friend Brad thought that was the coolest thing ever because you had a pager. And if that pager went off, you could have to leave at any moment and go to a fire. And so we thought that was the coolest thing we had ever seen. And so we talked to you about getting into it. And we eventually ended up, he and I both, him, because he was working at Fast Times and talked to some people out there, but he got us over at 3-Star because we had wanted to do Brighton. It was closer to home. And you had gone and asked Kenny Bridges, who's the fire chief, and he didn't want anybody under 18, and we were both under 18. And so we went out there to 3-Star, and that's where I ended up starting. But it was all because of you that I became a firefighter in the first place, and started volunteer firefighting when I was 17, still in high school. Started volunteer firefighting at 3-Star, and then eventually ended up at Brighton working for Kenny Bridges. Later on, and I don't blame him for not wanting anybody under 18. I wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
Once I got some authority at the fire department, I thought, yeah, I understand that decision.
Yeah, it's really going in with folks that it's not individually. It's that whole group thing. You know, you want some folks that are going to have your back that are, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, man. How long did you volunteer?
Gosh, 5, 6, 7 years seems like. So it was something like that. And I do recall, now that you said that, I remember doing a creative writing assignment in our English class where I brought in my helmet and I had some boots and some stuff sitting on a table and like gave the beginning of a story and y'all had to finish it.
Yeah.
And I still remember you gave me a pretty good story. There were a couple good, like,
I don't
stories from that
remember
starter.
what I wrote, and it was, but I know that just in hearing and when your pager would go off, like that was the most interesting part always is whenever the pager would go off, and so if it was you wouldn't have to leave unless it was a fire,
Right.
and so
right.
and of course the fire department does other types of calls and stuff,
Right.
and so we would hear what the call was and going out and everything. It was just to me at 16, it was the coolest thing ever. And like I said, and then it inspired me. Me and my friend Brad more than me really. And I kind of tagged along with him, but I ended up staying in it and he didn't. But yeah, it was. It's always great to have somebody on the show. Like I was saying earlier, later I'm going to have a guy on the show who actually he's the person that gave me the nickname Dynamite. And
really?
so I love having these people that had these influences in my life
wow,
later on.
Yeah.
But it's so I got to thank you for that because even though I don't do it now, it's a great job, by the way. If anybody's thinking about doing it, it's a fantastic job.
It was great.
And it's great to volunteer.
Yeah.
It's a great community thing to do just to be a volunteer. So if you get the chance, go out and do it. And just the only thing I would say is if you get to a volunteer fire department and they're not doing a lot of training, find a different place.
Amen.
You need people that are training, and then you can learn it and hopefully do it for a living one day, because really there's no better job. You work about 10 days a month and you get to hang out with your friends.
Yep,
So
absolutely. And I think things have changed. Back when I was on, I think I was like the only person on the fire department who wasn't a smoker.
Probably.
I know. I mean, it's
I
like
remember when I first got to Brighton Fire Department, the out where the trucks are in the bay, the floor is littered with cigarette butts.
Yeah,
like it's like a once a week thing. Somebody had to sweep up all the cigarette butts.
Mm-hmm.
Baby, you and probably Kenny, because I don't think Kenny ever smoked.
Yep.
And,
that's right.
And that was, but that was.
I don't think he did either. You're right.
That was probably it. Yeah,
and you can suck down an oxygen tank a lot quicker when you're you're used to having a couple packs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You got to switch out fast.
That's right.
When you got those,
that bell will go off a little quicker. Kenny works for the school system now.
Yes, I did know that. Yeah, and I'm going to try to have Kenny on at some point. I doubt he will agree to it, but I'm going to try to have him on at some point because he doesn't like stuff like this. But
he likes kind of staying in the background, which that's what he's doing. He's doing all our fire stuff, checking fire alarms, and making sure all the extinguishers are up to code and filled up and charged and all that kind of stuff. So
but and I haven't, since I've been back in town, I haven't gotten a chance to see Kenny yet, but I'm looking forward to getting a chance to see Kenny again. He had another person that had such a great influence on my life through all those years. But I just wanted to bring up that you were the inspiration. You're sort of the catalyst behind my career for quite a while, and of course that career, because it kept me in Brighton. It also kept me in touch with you all those years because you were at the school and we would have to go up there for alarms and different drills and stuff like that. So.
That's back when that pager, like, I remember I had to cinch it up like an extra notch on my belt. That pager was huge.
Yeah.
To keep your
I don't even know if they do them anymore. I don't know if they have pagers or what they do anymore. That's how long I've been out of it. Is I'm not sure what they carry anymore. I know at one time, right when I left, they had just started a thing where if you were on the list, you still had the pager, but you also got a text message that told you where you were going, and I'm sure it's gone way past that since then. It's top of the hour. You see, I told you that's why I was going to have to keep you, because we already got to the top of the hour now, just talking about that. But let's take a break because I got to do a station identification. Then we'll do some news, and I'll come back with you. And because all the years that I've known you, I never knew that we had in common that we both love the subject of Bigfoot. We'll talk about that when we come back on US 51 Country 93.5. But now I am joined once again by Dr. John Combs. And so I was talking to my mom and dad one day, and I was saying something about how I was needing to get you on the show. This was when I was first planning the show. And she said, yeah, and you could talk to him about Bigfoot. And I said, well, why would I do that? And she said, oh, he's really big into that. And I never knew all these years. I never knew that you were big into Bigfoot, just like me. And so I've got to ask you, first of all, what sort of made you fall in love with that subject?
Okay, so my brother and I both have always been big into Bigfoot, but back when we were like, right, like 10 years old. So back in the day, I was born in '70, so back in the '80s, I guess. But back before it was trendy, like right now it's on coffee cups and
Oh, yeah,
billboards and stickers and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well,
Which is
Finding Bigfoot did a lot for it. Yeah.
absolutely. So it's kind of cool, but back in the day, we were all into it just because it's cool. You can research it. I've even been to a couple of the Bigfoot festivals, and
Have you been
seen
to the
that.
one in, I don't mean to interrupt you, but have
No,
you been to the one in
Townsend.
Gatlinburg?
Yeah, Townsend.
Oh,
Just outside of Townsend, Tennessee.
that one is one that I've been wanting to go to for a long time. I haven't gone to yet.
Yep. We've been to that one. It's mainly the coolest part of that one's the people watching. I mean, it's seeing like the whole, the whole conglomerate of folks that show up to that one, because you've got like the true diehard, you say anything weird about Bigfoot maybe not existing and somebody's, probably going to smack you in the back of the head, to folks that are like, yeah, I'm not sure, but this is pretty cool. I'm here to the folks that are just there to see all the weirdness.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So you get the whole piece. But no, yeah, we've been to those. Those are really cool. But there's a lot of unexplained stuff out there, and that's why I tell people all the time. No, yeah, 100%. I think there's something out there.
Well, that's what, yeah. So, and of course, whenever this comes up with people that haven't thought a lot about it really, their first thing is like, they just think of it as this joke or this boogeyman story or whatever. Well, the biggest misconception out there about the Bigfoot thing is that there's one, that it's like the Loch Ness monster and there's a Bigfoot. And so they think, oh, yeah, well, how can he be on all these places at once? Well, there's no, you don't understand. The belief among people who believe that it's a real thing believes that there's an undiscovered population of animals that exists.
That's right.
That's the most prevalent belief, is that this is some sort of ape that lives in the woods of North America, primarily in the Northwest, that's not been described by science yet. We don't have a type specimen, but that probably lives in faraway pockets, and occasionally people see them. And that's kind of the way that I like to describe it to them. And I was telling you earlier, I think I got into it. I really got into the science of it and really thinking, oh, yeah, there's something to this, from the TV program. And I know a lot of the Bigfoot researchers you talk to will kind of poo-poo all TV programs,
right,
like as if they don't have value. But Bigfoot Legend Meets Science, which was done by what's the guy's? Oh, darn it, I can't think of his name now. He did the show Monster Quest, also, Doug Hychek. And Doug Hychek is a legitimate researcher on top of being a filmmaker, and he did this and had all these scientists, and they a lot of the scientists came to the conclusion that there's something worth looking at here. They looked at the patterns of migration, and there's Henner Fehrenbach has looked at all the footprint evidence and decided that when you chart out all the sizes of all the footprints, it makes a bell curve, which only happens with natural animals. If it was a hoax, it would be all over the place. The measurements would be all over the place. They wouldn't be consistent and show a bell curve from big to small on and have you wouldn't have a good average on that. And then it goes beyond that. I mean, there's the sightings in the way that they follow weather patterns and things like, I mean, there's so much to get into with the science that people don't realize, that it's just so good to meet somebody that kind of knows what all this stuff is.
Well, and some folks will say, look, how can you be that educated and believe in something like that? I'm sure you've heard stuff like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
How can you, how are you claiming to be smart? Well, I mean, how do you claim to be smart and not know that there might be something else out there, or not think that there's something else to that, right? I mean, the Bible talks about the Leviathan, the Behemoth, the Nephilim, all that kind of stuff. I mean, name somebody who's seen some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff out there just like that that's real, I think.
Well, there are all kinds of theories. And so, the conventional thing in academia, the conventional path of evolution had you as a straight arrow from ape to man, which is still actually considered ape in as far as phonology or whatever. But they had this straight line, and so like there was this one point where apes started walking upright, and then they turned into humans or whatever. But now they know that's not true. They found that humans used to not just be Homo sapiens, but there were multiple species that were pretty close to human walking around at the same time because we found uh, Neanderthal, which is not a direct ancestor like they thought. And, you found other paranthropines and stuff. And so to believe that an ape species that we haven't yet got a type specimen for doesn't exist is crazier than to believe that it does exist to me, or that it could at least, especially with, I think the other thing people don't understand, they say there's trail cameras everywhere. But what you don't understand is there's so many.
Not everywhere.
They're not everywhere, and there's so many wooded areas of North America alone that nobody ever goes into, ever.
Right. I mean, how long ago was it that folks were still saying that dinosaurs don't exist? Right.
Yeah.
And so now we have all this stuff that says, well, yeah, I mean, no, I still think God made them, so, I mean,
Yeah.
I still think there are just so many things that can't be explained. And at some point, and I think that's human nature to try to explain it. And
Yeah.
instead of just saying, no, I mean, give it a second. How do you know how do you know that's not there? Right. Plus,
Right.
Bigfoot's cool. I mean, why
Yeah.
don't you want to go try to check out something?
Absolutely. And I'm not like, look, I'm not one of these, I'm not 100% convinced of it out there, but here's what I do know. There are enough stories going far enough back, much further than the famous film, into Native American mythology, all the way up to present day. But even when pioneers from Europe first started going into the West and started reporting wild men in the woods, that, who knows? Maybe it's just some people, maybe it's just like a tribe of people that are uncontacted. We don't know.
Yeah.
But we do know that has happened now, not in North America recently, but in the Amazon, there are uncontacted tribes all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
So can small groups of people live in, it could be that. And so, yeah, I just think that the skepticism is good, but outright dismissal is unfounded.
Yeah, I agree. I still swear I'm down the 185-pound heavyweight wrestler in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, when I was in high school. I think he may have been descended from Bigfoot because he was the hairiest joker I ever wrestled in my life, and he moved just like it. So I'm just saying, but no, I definitely think there's something to all that. Am I going to write a book on it? Maybe not, but it's going to be fun to keep looking and.
Well, I am writing a book on it. I am writing a book on it, but I'm diving into a lot of research. I need to do more field work before I can put something out there. But my book is more speculative of let's see if we can plug the hole of find out what it might actually be. And does it fall into the category of ape? Does it fall into the category of more human, somewhere closer to that? And then let's plug that in and see if that helps us find out if it could actually be real. And I think that's just a way to go about it. And but I also think, and I'm glad that you brought up the Bible, because I think a lot of people, it's like the dinosaur thing and stuff like that. A lot of people will ask you how you can have your faith and believe that at the same time. And there are people out there that think that you can't believe that the earth is round and be a Christian at the same time, when we've been to space and know the earth is round.
That's right.
But there's nothing. See, I think the mistake that people make, and this may be getting too philosophical for you, but I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is that they believe that science and Christianity completely disagree on everything, when that could not be further from the truth.
That's absolutely right. Yeah,
they agree on most things. Now, there are plenty of scientists are atheists because they're more evidence based in their beliefs, and so they see it as a contradiction to believe in God. But plenty of Christians see no contradiction in any science that's been discovered and what we believe about Christianity, and that's the camp I'm in.
Right. Well, and when you believe in a all-powerful God, right, and all-knowing God who can create all that stuff, I mean, the Garden of Eden, you slice the tree open in the Garden of Eden. That dude going to have any rings in it? I mean, it's brand new, but it's an adult tree. He's going to have any rings in it?
Yeah.
But we can't explain that. I mean,
Right.
you just got to, that's where the faith part comes in. We're like, no, God made it. So if you carbon date a rock, back that was sitting in the Garden of Eden, no, it's an old rock, but it's brand new. I mean, I don't know. He made it. What? I don't think that's it. I think that's what he did. Right.
Yeah.
So at some point, usually the folks that want to argue with you too are the folks that haven't actually read the books.
Right.
They just want to talk about it. Like
that's true. Yeah. That is 100% true. Let me take a quick break right here, pay some bills, and then we'll come back with more with John Combs and maybe talk more about school or something other people care about. But I've enjoyed the Bigfoot thing. So, and guess whose show it is? So I can talk about whatever I want. See you guys in a minute.
Action Bail Bonding, a family-owned and operated business providing the best bail bonds, serving Covington and all of Western Tennessee.
Jimmy Fallon used to do a radio DJ, and he would go, "Well, we're back." I am joined again in this segment by Dr. John Combs, who has graciously given us so much of his time this morning. Appreciate you being in, man. And so now you've turned over your job. You're retired now. How's that going for you?
Great. It's weird. Been off like a month and a half now, and it's just weird. My schedule is still busy, but it's like the emergency stuff is out. Because there's always something happening, right? You always had to make some kind of a decision. I'm sure my Dr. Bird is experiencing that as we speak, I'm sure. But it's like, about every 30 minutes to an hour, somebody's asking you a question that needs to have an answer right then, right?
What do you think of Dr. Bird?
She's a great person. Yeah, great person. And she's much more instructionally minded than I was. I mean, she was better. She had a lot more experience with elementary than I did. Very good with policy. Great with instruction. She was a great teacher. So I mean, yeah, I think she's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I've never heard any bad things about it, and I met her. I know her personally, but I mean, I don't not close or anything. But I know her husband well. But she's always been just a great person every time I've been around her, and I've always only heard praise about her days at Atoka and her job now. I've only heard praise. So yeah, I think it's in good hands going forward. As we enter this sort of new era, because you've got Billy Doherty coming in, and September, I think, is when they take the oath.
Right.
And so it's a whole sort of new dynamic about to take place, but I think we're really in good hands to go forward.
I think so, and they're a great board. I mean, I've worked with a lot of good board members. I was counting the other day, like something weird, like I worked with 18, 19, 20 different board members during my time up there at the central office. Because you know how that dynamic works, right? Like the board is elected by the people, and the board hires the superintendent. So,
it used to be elected superintendent.
Correct. Like back when I very first came to Tipton County, Tim Fight had been elected, but then after that, he had been appointed by the board, right? He'd been elected by or chosen by the board or hired by the board. So basically, the 9 board members have one employee, and that's the superintendent. The superintendent has all the other employees that work for the school system. So like the 9 board members hired me, and then I had 1,500 employees, right? That's kind of how that worked. So the school board is not directly over 1,500 employees. They're over the superintendent. They have 3 main functions.
Oh, I see.
They're over the budget, policy, hiring the superintendent. Those 3 main functions are the board.
Can I make a suggestion though for anybody on the school board currently, or anybody that thinks about going to the school board? Go to a school every now and then. You're on the school board. Tour a school. You might want to tour all of them since you're doing the budget for them and all that. And I just know that, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular or anything like that, but I know from experience in local government that elected officials sometimes view their only obligation as making the meetings and functioning during the meetings. And I think that's such a disservice to the people who elect you. like I said, I'm not trying to pick on anybody in particular.
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to encourage board members. If you're a board member, take a day every now and then and go to a school.
100%. I think that happens across the county with all the positions. I will say, this board that we have currently, they're great at that, Chad. I mean, they're great at that, and they're very, very supportive. This group, I've seen them do cookouts for teachers. I've seen them go in and be a part of different programs at the schools and recognize them at board meetings and go to events. But this group of board members that we have currently is so supportive. I mean, they've been good. I mean, so you asked me, about what hands it's in. I think our current set of board members is great.
Well, that's excellent. I know you've so in your retirement, you've had a busy retirement, even though you didn't have to get ready for a school year this year. But you went to Alaska.
Did yeah?
How was that?
We were looking for Bigfoot. No, I'm just.
Did you see that? It'd be where to find him. I mean, there's nobody up there.
We had a group from church. There were like 16 of us that went on a cruise. I'm not a big cruise guy, but I've always heard
love a
like
good
Alaska.
cruise.
Yeah, it's just a big floating golden corral as far as I'm concerned. But you know what? Alaska, never been there. Heard it was really
Oh,
pretty.
you must not gamble.
No, I don't.
Oh, see, it's a casino anytime you want it, man.
Yeah.
It's for degenerate
No.
gambler.
I drive
Oh,
in
see.
Memphis sometimes. That's about as gambling as I get. So
That's a gamble.
I'm telling you. So, but no, it was gorgeous, and those glaciers, the animal life that we saw out there, it was beautiful, and like I think probably the prettiest place I've ever been, countryside wise, was Scotland. And just everywhere you look is a postcard, right? It's just like so cool. But Alaska may have it beat. I mean, it was so like seaplane capital of the world or something. Like folks would get like Uber Eats and they'd fly it to their place in a seaplane. Like some of these folks that come down and pay all this money,
Yeah.
just to like, salmon fish, and they're up in some, isolated place. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, get McDonald's via seaplane. So, but it was so pretty. Of course, the weather was great. It was like 150 degrees here in Tipton County, and there it hovered between 40 and 65. I had on shorts and a fleece jacket, like layering, But the glaciers were so pretty. They were like light blue. You could get right up to them. I mean, it was.
I think a
very
cruise
cool.
is probably the way to see Alaska. I've
Yep.
never been, but I think rather than fly into a town in Alaska, just because you're only going to, if you fly into somewhere in Alaska or drive in, which can be done. Now, I didn't know that until like I met some people when I was selling cars. I met these people that had done it.
Mhm.
That I didn't realize that you actually, there are enough roads that you can drive all the way up through Canada to Alaska, even
Mhm.
though a lot of it is nothing. And you better have plenty of gas and maybe a can or two in the car with you.
Right.
But you're stuck kind of in the one place that you're at.
Right.
Rather because everything's so spread out, rather than taking the cruise and making the stops.
Right.
I
So
think it's got to be the way.
Well, the cruise part was cool because there are only a few cruise lines that will allow you to get up that close to some of the areas where they let us get in, and basically you go up really close to some of those glaciers, and then it'll do a really slow 360 so you can see all of the area. Then there are also, you'd stop at different ports and you get out, like we rented a Jeep at one place and drove to another glacier area, a national park, and went there. And then a couple from the cruise got on a helicopter and actually landed on a glacier and walked around on
I'm
it.
not doing that.
Yeah. So there were all different kinds of things
Yeah.
that you could do from.
That
It was
danger to me.
That's
You know how
right.
many planes get lost in Alaska all the time?
There's no telling. The big place.
They call it the Devil's Triangle up there. That so many planes get lost, but it's just because like the winds off the mountains and stuff are fierce,
wow.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, no, there's no way you're not getting me in the air in Alaska. I don't think ever.
Yeah.
But-
It was neat. Like all the all the gold rush stuff. Like we rode like
Yeah.
the old railroad. It was really neat. Some history there. You'd really like that. We rode on the old railroad there and talked about the significance of when it was built, why it was built, and all that. That was pretty neat. A lot of folks were like hugging one side of the cart because we were so close to the edge.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like, if we're
yeah, I
gonna
wouldn't care
tip
for
or
that
whatever,
either.
Yeah. But that was really neat.
I'm not big on heights.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, somebody you were up there. on a couple of them. But it was a nice trip. Of course, going with a group that
Right.
is always nice. The cruise stuff is all, to me, no matter what cruise line you pick, it's kind of B level. It's like I'm not big into that. Give me a bagel in the morning and I'm ready to rock. I don't need the whole 3-room buffet deal.
I like the idea of you go to multiple places,
Yes,
but your room is always in the same place.
Yeah.
So I do like that about cruising. And even the at sea days, to me, I just like it as a way to vacation, because when you're at sea, the days like you're in between a stop are like, it's like getting a rest day during a vacation, instead of going somewhere and just trying to cram everything in that you can while you're there. And when you come home, you need a vacation from your vacation.
That's right.
But I feel like with a cruise, you get those breaks are kind of built into the cruise, and so you don't get overwhelmed at any one point.
Yeah, that part was nice. And it was light the whole time. Like Carla, my wife, and I were shooting like a video, and it was like, I said, "Hey, baby, tell everybody what time it is." And she's like, "It's 11." It was like 11 p.m. and still like light behind us, right? So, yeah.
Another reason that the Earth isn't flat, by the way, for you guys out there.
Yeah. That would be kind of hard.
That's why it stays daylight so long up there, because they're at the top of the globe. So.
There you go.
Yeah, that was super cool. Look, man, it's been great. I don't want to hold you up anymore because I know I'm taking up too much of your time already.
That's great to be here.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it. There's a million different topics that we could talk about, so I'd love to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I'd love to come back
someday, because we didn't even touch on high school football. We didn't touch on any of sports or anything. So I'd love to have you back one day to do all of that. But thanks for coming in today.
Absolutely. Now you know how to get a hold of me. Just yell at me. I'll be back.
And we'll see if he answers the calls. All right, George Burrs, some commercials. I'll come back with sports. I know I'm a little late on sports, but I'll come back with it here in just a minute on US 51 Country 93.